The following program is an MLWRadio.com production.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast, your show for news, notes, reviews and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on the MLW Radio Network, as well as on cagematch.net. I'm your host, STRIGGA. My co-host, Dylan, is here as well, and we are 4 days through the G1 Climax. Dylan, how are you feeling?
Where else could I be except here on the Eastern Lariat talking about the G1 Climax? Our top-notch coverage continues for all the good folks out there who listen. Thank you very much to everybody listening. Of course, that's the main thing we have to talk about. And, I mean, now we are getting into the hot and heavy days of the G1. We're getting into that mid-tour G1 time. We do it every year. We're always there when we're getting into night 5, night 6, night 7. So only great things are to come, clearly, from this. And last episode, we talked about the first 2 nights. And this episode, we have 2 more nights. The G1 is our jam right now.
The G1 is here, the G1 is going, and that's what we're going to talk about. We talk about night 3 and 4. First of all, from the Yamagata City General Sports Center on the 18th, 1,239 fans in attendance, up from what they did last time when they were in that venue in 2021. Still, during the pandemic, they drew below 1,800 and something, I think. Not very comparable. I looked up the building on a cage match, and I saw that they drew above 2,000 for a G1 show in 2016. And of course, you can't really compare these numbers anymore because of how the pandemic affected everything. But this is about something that New Japan should look at to possibly be able to do once again, to draw bigger houses in these towns, cities outside of Tokyo, to slowly and steadily rebuild. I do think that they are on a good path so far this year. They've had good houses, if you take exception to the Dominion house that did 7,000 fans in the big Osaka Joe Hall. That obviously was not a good draw at all, but the card wasn't as powerful as it used to be in years prior. So I guess they are on a good path. They drew 1,657 fans to the ZBU Arena in Sendai, and I've actually not checked what they did before that. But Dylan, we got a wonderful website that we can access right now as I'm talking, because I got on cagematch.net. I'm searching for events in the
I just want to make another point while
Arena
you're
Sendai. I've already got it, but make your point.
Yeah, I was thinking that, like, when you talk about Dominion, we also have to acknowledge in a lot of these shows, there's been a large increase in ticket prices for these events from where they were before.
Yeah.
Dominion was up literally like 30% from where they were, and this is really the first time the whole country, not just in wrestling, but again, a lot of the things we look at in the whole country of Japanese wrestling, there's probably a thread towards some non-wrestling stuff that you can draw it to, kind of like the Musketeers thing. That's not necessarily something that they just came up with on the fly. It's something that's been going on a lot. But this is really the first time where Japan has gone through their own period of inflation in a long time, like decades. So that has to be mentioned as well, maybe for profitability's sake, but also there's some fans that maybe just don't want to shell out that much dough to come there.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, there are many, many other forms of entertainment in the country going on, especially in the Tokyo area when you're there. or in the Osaka area, there's lots of entertainment going on that is not wrestling, lots of sports going on that is not wrestling, and of course these tickets are also not the cheapest. So you gotta really look out for the cards that you want to go to. And as I'm checking this right now, they drew last year for the show in Sendai, they drew 1,919 fans. So they did 300 fans less this year. And last year's main event, Dylan, was Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroki Goto, actually. So back-to-back years, same building, same match. Match quality was okay, I would say, with these two. Last year's match has a rating, let me see, a 4-star rating from Dave Meltzer and a 7.77 rating on Cage Match. This year's has a 6.9 rating. I think that's about fair for this match. But before we go into individual matches, Dylan, I want to ask you, I did that on the last show at the end of the show. I first want to ask you, after 4 days in, what is your feeling towards the G1 Climax? Last show, we said that we weren't really feeling it because the opening weekend was okay to good, I would say, but we weren't really in the G1 feeling yet at that point. Has that changed for you?
No, I feel basically the same. It does feel colder than most years in the opening for whatever reason. I can't say for sure why that is. On the last show, I pointed to Night 9 as when things will really kick into the big gear with the first big match. Because that's something overall, not to spoil anything, but I think that is kind of something that's been missing. You think in the past, especially the opening night, you think about a big match to kick things off, something that gets everybody talking. Maybe like, in a year's past, there'd be maybe a Naito and a Tanahashi match on night 1 or 2 that everyone goes crazy over, a match of the year or whatever. And this year, we haven't had that. There is no big match, not just in quality, but in terms of importance.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen that either. So they're missing two key components of having a great G1, which is match quality and importance. Not to say there isn't match quality, we'll get into that. But like I said, Night 9 is the one I'm circling. If things heat up there, that's when I think we have a chance for that. And obviously Night 7 as well with Sonata and Kaito. If things go, if Kaito wins that could be something that gets people talking.
Yeah.
We have
that
chances.
Show also has Okada versus Yoshihashi. That could be quality-wise a very good match.
Yeah, that could be an awesome match as well. Night 7 might be a better place. Night 7 to 9. Once we get to Night 7 to 9, that's when I'm hoping things kick into a new gear.
Yeah. I mostly agree with you. I saw some good matches on these two shows, but still, though, there is this final spark is really missing. And when you can, for example, point to the Sanada versus Shota Umino match on the 18th, the semi-main of that show. Sanada made a lot of comments about the Reiwa Three Musketeers, really talking down to them, belittling them. And then the match was a good one. And I said it on Twitter, it was a good match when you look at the quality of the work that they did. Because Sanada and Shota Umino are two capable wrestlers, but there was hardly any fire to this match. There was hardly any spark that came from either of the wrestlers. And that's not really good when you think about that Sanada is the champion and Shota Umino is one of those guys that they are focusing on and that is supposed to be one of the top stars in the company. I almost said top drawing stars in the company, but that is supposed to be his role, that he is supposed to put asses into seats in years to come. Of course, not him on his own, but that's his role. And like the match went on and on and on, and it was a very long match, almost 19 minutes, close to the time limit draw. And we've seen a couple of matches that got close to this time limit already in this tournament. And they are really playing with that in a lot of matches. And you didn't really feel the importance of this particular match, that Shota Umino could have taken a real shortcut defeating Sanada. And this last sense of urgency was missing, in my opinion.
I think back to our conversation on the last episode talking about the Dome and the potential of Sanada going into the main event of the Dome as the champion. And the more I watch him, the more perplexed I feel thinking about him. We did me and Dean and Dr. Jonathan did a preview for the N1 that's coming out next week. Mm-hmm. We already have that recorded, but in it, and not to spoil anything on that, but Jonathan basically, was really Like, he basically agreed with what you were saying when we were having our conversation about the two big matches and then the title match doesn't have to be that hot, which I didn't like that idea too much. And I think about that. With Noah, I actually don't mind it as much with Jake because I think you have a quality match, at least in the main event with something like that. With Sonata, I mean, Sonata, it's not like he's this terrible wrestler.
No, he's not. He's like I said, he knows how to do his matches well, but if you go above that is
there's no soul in his matches.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
I felt it when he won the title. I thought his complete demeanor had changed. He suddenly had much more confidence in himself. He suddenly seemed like he was still doing the old Sonata-isms, but when his title reign started, I really had some hope that this guy, that there would be a flip switched with this guy that would propel him to the next level. Like he would like grow with the championship. But now it feels like he's just treading water and he's the same guy basically.
That's why they put the faction around him, and the fans reacted to a new guy going. And Okada's excellent work also helped that as well.
Sure.
You put all these smoke and mirrors to make him look better than he really was, and I mean that facade quickly got ruined. I mean, in the Hiromu match, the crowd totally was behind Hiromu, and then Tsuji outperformed him. So I mean, now what? Now what with him? He's just a guy. Like Sonata is just a guy. To me, when I look at him, it shouldn't be the champion, but we'll see where he goes. And Umino, he's done all right. Like I said, I mean, we're only 2 matches in. He's not doing bad stuff or anything like that, but he's another guy I would kind of look at him in that way as well. Somebody who I don't think has a next level spark to him.
And that's even something that was brought up on English commentary. Who is this guy? What is he supposed to be? Is he supposed to be like a version of John Moxley? Is he a version of Tanahashi? That was brought up as well by Sanada, that Shota Umino is fake Tanahashi. Or is he trying to be his own wrestler, his own gimmick? I think he's like really finding himself, but at that point in time, while he's finding himself, he's in the biggest tournament of the wrestling world. And the wrestling world that is watching is, of course, watching his progress. And I think he needs to think about what he wants to be in this position that he's in.
I think that it's good that you have a young talent like that. And like I said, if you just look at this match, there was when there was a certain move that Umino tried that really didn't go well, but for the most part, the
work was good. Yeah,
the execution was fine. There's just no soul, no soul between either of these two. It's just moves. You could watch a Fire Pro match between these two, and it would probably work out pretty similar to what you have here if you have the right coding.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare for that reasoning, the Ren Narita versus Yota Tsuji match, I thought that had a lot of more sense of urgency between these two guys, with Yota Tsuji once again really bursting out big moves. I mean, this suicide dive he did, where he almost killed himself in the guardrail, looked awesome. Him and Ren Narita had a fiery final minutes of this match, with them going back and forth. And once again, Yota Tsuji is not able to win a match in the G1 Climax. So following these two in this match and in their quest in the tournament, I think is much more intriguing, actually, than the Shota Umino way of the tournament.
Yeah, I thought that match, it was really good, the closing stretch, but, I mean, at that point, you still got 10, 12 minutes of slow work between them, and I didn't think I actually thought the Narita and Umino match was better than that one overall, and I just...
Agreed, yeah.
And that wasn't even a super great match, but it was a really good start to the tournament on a pretty weak show in the opening night, and this... I thought they got once they got there, they were there, but I don't think they exceeded expectations. But I mean, if you compare it to Sonata and Umino, then yeah, it was better for sure.
Yeah, that was my level of comparison. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So if you compare them to this really 5 out of 10 match that Sonata and Umino had, then yeah, it was better. But I don't know. I think that these two, there was something missing, and I have to say, as much as I love Narita, I don't feel the crowd rallying behind him very much either, and that they kind of designed this match to kind of give him a spotlight. But it was all disjointed because Tsuji, like you said, Tsuji was doing all these cool moves, but they wanted Narita to also get a spotlight. And then the finish, I thought, was really stupid. Like, I mean, they talked about, they signaled that the match, like 1 minute to go, like on the commentary or whatever, or not the commentary, but the ring announcer. There was the sense of urgency wasn't there at all. Like, because Tsuji went right to the top rope, and they weren't even trying to win practically, and when they called it out on announcing. So I don't know what was going on with that match, but the wrestling was good, though. Like the wrestling was better between those two than the Sonata.
I would say the sense of urgency was there, but it looked to me that Renarita was not sure of how long the eventual dropkick that he did and positioning himself for that dropkick would take, which is why the time limit ran out, and it looked really stupid that he hit the dropkick after the match.
It was kind of amusing, I guess.
It was hilarious, yes.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I'm not down on this match. Again, it's better than what Umino did, but when you see these two on paper, again, much like the first night, and with all of the hype that surrounded them, I want to see next level stuff. I want to see Three Musketeers level stuff between these guys, and I don't know if we got that.
No, that's missing. That's right. Much like we said on the last show, a lot of this feels artificial.
Well, yeah, obviously the stuff with the Musketeers is its own thing now, but I mean, whatever we think, like I said, good, positive, or negative, they did it. We can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But I hope that they listen to what we said about Narita specifically on the show, because his wrestling is there, like to me pretty clearly. But the fans are not. There's nothing for the fans to latch onto with him.
I mean, why would there be?
Exactly.
The guy hasn't done anything except for like 6-man tags with the Desperado and Minoru Suzuki for the last couple of months.
Yeah, that was my main point, like of the last episode. Like, that's why I didn't like it so much, is because they haven't done anything, and now we're in this tournament. I still think that it was a bad call to put them all in the same block ultimately. And on top of it, we knew this was going to go to a draw. Like on top of more problems, it's like like that's the story they're going to tell with these guys. And then when Umino and Tsuji go, they're probably going to go to a draw too. So it's very boring.
Like, you know that right now, yeah.
Yeah, so that match didn't light me on fire as much as I wanted it to, because I like both guys a lot, more than Umino, but it didn't work for me, actually.
No, yeah, I agree. A match that much more lit the world on fire, in my opinion, was the Will Ospreay versus Yoshihashi match, because once again, Will Ospreay, he backed away from selling concussion syndromes in this match, at least. I think the story was that he got a kick in the head and then wasn't really sure how to move anymore. That was the match story for the first match, but luckily they backed away from that with Yoshihashi. And I really thought that this was the strongest match over the 2 nights that we saw here, night 3 and night 4. I loved this match the most. I would rate it like a 8 out of 10, probably.
10 out of 10.
This is a match of the year level. Yes. No, it was an 8 out of 10, and that's also reflected by the rating we got, 7.93. Will Ospreay really gave Yoshihashi a lot. There was this awesome moment in the match where Yoshihashi really flipped Ospreay completely around with one of his great-looking lariats. There was very cool stuff. Finish was good as well. Yoshihashi got a lot. Got to look very good here in this match, almost on the level of a Will Ospreay.
Yeah, this was a great match, I thought. And I kind of said that when we were talking about it. That's what they did in the first match where he got kicked and tried to do the concussion deal.
Yeah.
Here, there was nothing like that, like you said. If you mentioned the lariats, and you can go back to like 2016 when Yoshihashi was first in the G1, the secret to a great Yoshihashi-style lariat, do the lariat, and as soon as you hit him, throw that arm up in the air, like as high as you can.
So great, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it look better, like the way he did it. I think these two are like great stylistic dance partners, because Yoshihashi is the man when it comes to like the little things in a match, the psychology, the facial expressions that he has, the way to lay out a match. He's great at that, but Ospreay is great at being flashy and adding cool stuff to the match that Yoshihashi doesn't do. So it's like you have a great mix of things where their weaknesses and strengths kind of go together with each other. And I thought they worked together really well together. And they gave a great match. And it wasn't like they went the time limit or anything like that. It was closer to 10 than it was to 20. But they got a completely cool match out of it. There was a great move on the outside where Ospreay came up with his mouth bloodied. I thought was a great touch as well. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of big moves, great camera work as well. I saw some comments on there, and I wanted to point that out as well. When he did the flip pile driver, that was that Yoshihashi did. It looked devastating, and I was like, man, this was awesome.
That was one of the coolest looking Canadian destroyers I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, exactly. You got to give credit to the angle they shot it at. And again, Yoshihashi's great at timing and things like that in matches. So, like in a match against somebody else that may be more a flashy guy, but not as smart as Yoshihashi when it comes to wrestling, they probably would have done that same move, but it wouldn't have been as cool as this one was. And then on top of it, another thing I really liked, new finish for Ospreay as well, using the infrared, Sky Twister press type of move.
Oh, the hang time was so cool in this situation when he did this move. That's really something that you can point to with Ospreay. He's a lot of different finishing moves in the last couple of years, and a tournament like this really demands that you have the capability of using different moves to finish your match in the end.
Oh, absolutely. And I totally agree about your point, too, about the hang time. That made this move look different. This looked like when you in the old WWE 2K games, when you create the finisher, if you did a top rope one, this is how it would come across. Because in all the other ways people have done this move, whether it's Chaparita Asari or Amazing Red, basically their technique was to spin as fast as possible.
Right.
To do it. This one was like you said, he jumped up and it was a slower rotation than what you would see from those wrestlers.
Exactly.
But it made it look unique and special. Great finisher.
And I was thinking that he maybe was going for the Phoenix Splash, and I think he could do that if he was just spinning faster, much like you said with Red. He was spinning much faster when he did the move, but he decided to not spin completely around, but do the Sky Twister press, and it looked very good. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I like this match a lot. This is, like you said, this was probably the best match. I think you could argue one of the better of all the nights. To be honest with you, I have it right there too. It's still I agree with what you said though. Maybe an 8 out of 10, something like that. It wasn't the match of the year, but it was a great match though. One I highly recommend watching it. I thought they did a great job, and I just like them together. I think they're a great pairing stylistically.
And I think this is a great format, actually, for a G1 match in this particular set of rules with a 20-minute time limit. Just going all out for 13 to 15 minutes, finishing the match within the 10 to 15 mark. These two completely did that. While, once again, the main event, it was almost... it was 16-21 with Okada going over El Fantasmo. This match, I thought, much like in a lot of cases, this match didn't really have anything going for it in the first half of it. You could really say that the first 8 minutes, they were doing all right stuff, but just in the second half, almost when the 10-minute call came, it rapidly got better, much like I put it on Twitter. El Fantasmo suddenly got some moves in, and it looked like that he could maybe upset Okada, but not really. I wasn't really feeling that Fantasmo was really having a chance against Okada. But the second half of this match was really, really good. While the first half, for a main event match in the G1 Climax, nearly put me to sleep, to be honest.
Wow. I think... this is probably going to be when Okada's in the main event style here. I think you can probably look forward to more of this. Phantasmo was interesting here. This is kind of his biggest match since his babyface kind of run right now. And it's a great comparison. We talk about these matches back to back because it was Yoshihashi versus Phantasmo on the first night. And I thought their opening match was not that great.
No.
To be honest. A fine match, nothing wrong with it, but nothing special at all. So I like to see this comparison point because you had Hashi versus Ospreay, which I thought was a great match. And then you had this one, which I thought was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was great. I thought it was a good match, though, and I like that Phantasmo, I think, has done a good job in the babyface. I mean, he's working overtime here, which I guess kind of fits in with his style of wrestling, because as a heel, he was doing all the cheap tricks you could possibly do as a heel, and now as a babyface, he's doing all of the cheap tricks you could possibly do as a babyface. He's blowing kisses to the crowd, throwing up the heart sign, giving his shirt away. It's like he is trying his hardest to be the ultra babyface right now. And I thought he did a good job, though, and I thought he did a pretty decent job. Well, and I do think that a problem was, and I thought they worked with the crowd as well in Yamagata. I thought they kind of got behind him as a good babyface.
They did. There was a real loud ELP chant going on at one point of the match.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing for Okada's matches as well, if you could get people to rally behind him. And I guess Okada just wrestled him as a stand-in for a young guy, which has kind of been his feud this year, right? So I guess he's part of these young guns generations. ELP is, but I thought it was pretty decent, but not as good as the Hashi and so for the cage match example, you'd give the Ospreay and Yoshihashi an 8, and for me, I'd probably give this more like a 7.
Yeah, I would probably go to a 6.
Even a 6. So I guess I liked it a little better, but I'm not that far removed from you. But I have a word for this on the Patreon reviews and stuff. I do a soft recommendation, where you may end up liking it or you may not. It's going to be in that 6 to 8 range probably. Like maybe you'll get there, or maybe you'll be a little lower than you are. But that's about where this match was. A good solid match. Maybe you wanted a little bit more. Maybe you didn't.
Yeah. Absolutely. So before we go to the other matches on this show, we're not going to go through by match because there's nothing really to say about a lot of these matches on the undercard, and that's kind of my point later in the show. Let's first look at the show from Sendai and the second half of that show. Dylan, what was your favorite match on this show?
Yeah, that show was interesting. I know a lot of people rallied behind Hinare and Shingo. Mm-hmm. In that, but I don't know.
I thought this match left a lot to be desired in comparison to the great match that I shouted out at the half-year awards show there. The Great Banger in April. I mean, that match was far, far better than this one.
Oh, yeah, that match was way better. I thought the Hinare and Mikey Nichols match was better than this, actually.
I agree.
Yeah, and the thing is, the same thing we saw with Shingo in the first night, when I talked about him versus Kingston. His performance is really good, like a lot of his stuff and his strikes and stuff. But then you look at Hinare, and they tried to get the spirit of the first match, I think, with Mikey Nichols and Hinare, where he was trying to throw these headbutts. Mm-hmm. But in the first match, it was all out and crazy and probably more dangerous in that match. But it was also more exciting and memorable than this one, where you were going a little bit softer. So I can't completely rip him because it was probably for safety purposes, I guess.
Yeah, probably much more of a polished version of the Hinare match.
Yeah, but it didn't really grab me too much. I mean, none of the matches on this show were that great, to be honest with you. I thought the main event was pretty good. Tonga and Ishii as well. I'd say, like I said, the last 3 matches were all in that 6 to 8 range that we talked about.
I would really say that the Naito and Goto match was the weakest of these 3, and in my opinion, pretty clearly the weakest of this. It's just a match that we've seen so many times. I was just saying it. We saw that match last year, same venue. We've seen this match for so many times that it's really hard for me to get behind watching these two wrestle. I would rather have seen more of a fresh match in this spot on the card. And
look at how, not to go back to what I said earlier. Look at how they did A block, where you had all 3 new guys in, right. and then in D block you put all the old favorites in, Naito and Tanahashi, Zack and Goto. It's like you put all these guys who have wrestled 10 million times before in the one block as well. So I think they could have done a better job of balancing that. Put one of the new guys in D block and move, Goto or whatever into A block.
Kind of a retro best-of compilation of the G1 Climax.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, this was like these guys were on, second gear. Like
second gear, finish sucked completely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Naito maybe a rough watch in this tournament.
Yeah.
Like
that might
the
be
two
true.
nights.
No,
The 2 nights.
I really like the main event between Tama Tonga and Tomohiro Ishii. I think Tama threw a lot into this match to get a good match in this main event spot. Does he have another main event going? I don't think so, right? In this tournament?
Why was this the main event?
I don't know.
Not that I'm against it, because it was the best match, probably.
There is some shows where I'm questioning why that particular match is going to be the main event. Let's see. Tama has... No, this was his one main event. Like, for example, we got this show on the 2nd of August, for example, where you got Tetsuya Naito and Zack Sabre Jr., but that's not the main event, but the main event is Shingo Takagi versus David Finlay. Or what else do we have here? David Finlay versus Evil is going to be the main event on the 23rd.
Ooh, the never a fan of Evil at main events, but
Nah.
I like
back to Tama Tonga. Like, I really think that that he threw a lot in this match. I really think that he worked hard to get this to get the best possible version of a match that he's capable of doing into this main event slot. And of course, Tomohiro Ishii is Tomohiro Ishii. We don't need to talk about that. Really like the finish too with the J Driller that he's calling the DSD, coming off of some near falls that Tama Tonga almost looked like he was losing faith in himself because all the things he did wasn't working. And then Tomohiro Ishii even did the gun stun as a counter to Tama Tonga's version of Tama Tonga trying to do the move. So really like the main event in the end.
I'm told Ishii just does the same stuff over and over and never does new moves, though.
So
I don't think that happened. I think you made that up, actually.
It's fake. It's fake.
Yeah. But it was awesome, though. Like I said, that part was great. And I was going to bring that up, too. I love the J Driller finish. Great, touching tribute to Jay Briscoe from Tama Tonga. I really like Tonga, actually, like as a babyface.
Me too.
I think he's done a good job. I like his Twitter game right now he's got going on. He just kind of stripped away all the over-the-top character stuff. Yeah, he was doing as a heel. He just gets to be his normal self, and I think he's done a great job. He comes across like a really cool guy, and he always has. And his work here was really good as like kind of a babyface, heroic guy here. And I totally agree with you. I thought that was the best match. And like I said, it's sad because Ishii, like you said, like, oh, we don't have to talk about that. But the thing is, he's probably going to be the best worker in the tournament once again, as he always is. And nobody's going to want to say it because it's the boring choice.
Absolutely. He has 2 great matches to his name already.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, he's going to be one of, if not the MVPs. And unfortunately, like, nobody will want to credit that because it's him and he's done it so many times. But, I mean, I think it's true, though. I can't argue against it so far. So, like, good main event. You were right about that. I'll give that one the props.
Yeah. How about that? So, what do you think about the Tanahashi and Shane Haste match?
Oh, I thought that was a lot of fun, actually. Like I said, it wasn't like a super great match overall, but I thought it was a very good, like, mid-card type of match. I thought Haste did a pretty decent job of adding some... Obviously, again, Tanahashi is not going to be a high-speed wrestler at this point, by any stretch of the imagination. But I think Haste did a good job bumping around, creating movement around him, making things good, and made Tanahashi's offense look really good. And even on I think Haste, he's a guy I called out at the beginning of the tournament as somebody to watch. Somebody if he had a chance, even though, like I said, Mikey kind of outshined him on the first night, but I think Haste is a rock-solid performer up and down, kind of underrated just because he's been not doing a long time. I do think that, if it was a mid-card match, if they had like a main event, the crowd was super rallying behind something, it could have been even better, but it was good for what it was at the end of the day. And, Tanahashi did what Tanahashi does, hit the high fly flow, got the win. I think he's had a really good tournament so far, through 2 nights.
2 good matches, definitely. It's funny that how on commentary they always talk about that Tanahashi might need to find different ways of winning his match, and then in the end it's just the high fly flow all over again. And he's just proving them wrong that he's just doing this, he's just doing his move.
That's what he does. I mean, this narrative has been out there for 7 years now, and he continues to be one of the top performers I told you at the start of the tournament, I'll never believe it until I see it with my own eyes. And so far, he's rewarded my faith in him once again. But we are only 2 matches in, so so who's to say? Once we get to night 10, maybe I'll sing a different tune. But through 2 nights, I don't see too much wrong with Tanahashi's work so far.
Yeah, this card pretty sure this was the better card in comparison to the day before, just because the undercard on the 18th sucked so much. It was really, really bad. Except for the Gabe Kidd versus Hikuleo match. Nice brawl on the outside. Hard work put into it. 3 minutes and 29. Nobody really could have a problem with this one. It's just that I'm wondering who is going to be the first one to think about that Gabe Kidd is attacking them on the way to the ring. Somebody has to do it, otherwise they really look stupid. And on the talking point of looking stupid, I mean, I think Eddie Kingston has seen an Evil match before, hasn't he? He must have.
I'm sure he is. He's a big fan, so
Yeah.
he has to be a great tape studier.
And he still fell for all of Evil's shticks once again, and that's going to be one of the harder watches of the tournament, watching everybody once again fall for Evil and Dick Turgo. This match has a rating of 5.49. I thought it was a really frustrating match with all the tropes that we've seen from Evil. I said it before, when Evil is in these mid-card roles, I think he's much more tolerable, but usually that's when he's in a 6-man match or a tag match, because this match really was bad, and it's going to be more of the same with Evil, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice of you to give him props for one day, at least, his good run in the tournament, and now we're back here. But I will say about Kidd and Hikuleo, what's up with, like I said, because, it was like a 3-minute match or something, much like the one against Owens, but, then you have all of this crowd stuff beforehand, this brawling type of stuff. I think it's somewhat interesting, to give a little bit of a different take. That fits his gimmick, obviously, and this match had actually gotten the win over Hikuleo, which I think was a little bit of an upset to me, just considering the size difference. But I'm fine with it. Kidd has shown pretty good brawling instincts and fire. And Evelyn Kingston, I mean, that's why I'm glad I when I rate the matches at the end of the tournament, try and scientifically formulate who had the best tournament. I always cut off the worst match of a person's tournament, and it's almost always one guy that constantly has the worst matches in these blocks, dating back to 2016. And I think it's pretty clear Evil will be that guy in this tournament.
Yes.
So I kind of give this a mulligan, pretty much, for any performer. Because you mentioned Kingston not watching the tapes enough. You could argue that about anybody.
Yeah.
Has nobody watched his matches? No, we can't all fast forward through these matches, guys. Somebody has to be tipped off to this. But I had these kind of matches, whether it's him or Yano, I really don't have any time for. At the end of the day, I don't like them.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about the Yano match. I thought it was somewhat of an amusing match. Kosei Fujita came out to tape all the turnbuckle pads to the turnbuckle that Toru Yano is not able to get them off there. I thought that was pretty amusing. He came out was it in this match that he came out as Zack Sabre Jr.?
Yeah, it's the only one we saw with Zack in it. So
it came.
It had to be this.
He came out with the Zack Sabre Jr. Toru Yano put Yuto Nakajima in the ring to take his spot. That was pretty amusing. Then on the ramp, Toru Yano tied Zack Sabre Jr.'s legs together with tape, and then everything from that point on, Dylan, was a complete car crash. Because they did a count-out spot, and no count-out in the G1 Climax will ever work out again, I think, when you look at this match, because the ref had to count so slowly because Zack Sabre Jr. was constantly falling on his ass trying to jump to the ring, and he wasn't taking any help from anyone, not even from Kosei Fujita. So I get that it was an amusing match. I enjoyed it for what it was. For the 5 minutes it was pretty fun, but I got more and more frustrated by the end of it because it was so stupid and it completely took away my disbelief. I couldn't really suspend my disbelief anymore because the ref counted so slowly. Zack Sabre was falling on his ass constantly. I thought this was really just a dumb idea to do it like that. And then much like I said, I enjoyed it for what it was, but then you got to think about what I said on the last show once again. These two wrestling in a tournament for the number one contender spot.
Exactly. That's always been my problem.
And I had an interesting discussion with John from the We Work Stiff podcast yesterday on that topic, Dylan. I quoted a tweet that said that the undercard from yesterday's show was pretty weak, and it was the user Delusional Daniel that said that he still doesn't see the benefits of this format. With more participants, it just dilutes the quality of the matches, and I agree with that, to be honest.
And that wasn't delusional at all. That was perfectly reasonable.
It was perfectly reasonable. Reasonable Daniel on point here. And I said that 3/4 of this field of the 32 wrestlers, you know that those are not winning the tournament. They don't have a chance of winning this tournament anyways. And Josh replied to that, is winning the tournament the sole function of the tournament existing though? Like obviously in K-pop it's the motivator, but like the Royal Rumble of years past, setting up fresh directions for feuds is the byproduct. And lots of new guys need clear directions moving from here, he said. What's your position on that, Dylan?
Yeah, in a meta sense, that makes sense. But I think just in the kayfabe sense of things, like when you think about it that way, I think that's going to be a big problem overall. And something like Yano doesn't even fulfill that. It's not like there's going to be a feud coming out of his matches. It's just literally to waste time on the card. So I think even if you consider that point, there's certain people on this card that you could probably take off without any hesitation. Like, you're not going to set things up. They're not a contender to win the tournament. And they just make the shows worse, being on them pretty much. And, there's a couple of guys you can throw into that right now, and I think we're on the verge with some others. So, I get what he's saying, though. You can do that. Like, if you're a booker, if you think about it like a booker, like we're playing again, shout out Fire Pro, Fire Management, then yeah, you could actually use this tournament to do a lot of cool things. I think one of the most noteworthy examples of that was Tomoki Honma's story for years.
Yes, I was also thinking about that story. But that worked so well because this guy you knew when he was going into the tournament that he was an undercard act that got the biggest shine of his career, and he lost all of his matches that had this clear story for him going on that everybody could get behind. And he was just this lovely, lovely underdog that got everybody's sympathy. I don't think that we have this in this tournament. There are a lot of bodies in this tournament that are just there because they are regulars on the roster and they don't really have anything going for them. I mean, yes, maybe Mikey Nichols will get a tag title shot out of this tournament, but you said it with Shane Hayes maybe beating Hiroki Goto. Yeah. But other than that, we got 32 guys in this tournament, and pretty much, if you're a regular in the tournament, if you're a regular of New Japan Pro Wrestling right now, if you're not a junior, if you're not old, or if you like Filthy Tom Lawler, we brought that up, he's a semi-regular. And even like Mikey Nichols is not really considered really a regular, but he was there before. But if you exclude these, pretty much everybody is in this tournament. Like, everybody gets in. And I don't think that's a good way to go with your biggest tournament of the year. I think that you should really raise the stakes of who gets into this tournament. Like, for example, they could open up a spot for a Young Lion, like do a Young Lions Cup before the tournament and have the eventual winner of this tournament then enter the G1 Climax. We've seen in years before that, for example, the winner of the Best of the Super Junior, the best junior heavyweight, goes up to the heavyweights and goes into the G1 Climax. Raise the stakes that you can reasonably get behind some of these wrestlers that have achieved something to get into this tournament, and you get behind their cases much more than you get behind a case of, I don't know, Tangaloa, or who else is there? Evil, or Gabe Kidd.
Coughlin.
Alex Coughlin, yeah. I mean, these guys are just there because they are regulars right now. And it not only raises the stakes, or it doesn't only raise the profile for the individual wrestler if he has achieved something going into this tournament, it also raises the profile of the tournament itself when there is a goal to clear for you to get into the tournament.
And I agree with that. I think we also have to look at it, let's call a spade on certain ways. I don't know if there's any kayfabe or even booking reasons for some people. A lot of times, someone like Owens, for example, he's there because he's a soldier for the company.
Exactly.
Ultimately, this is a favor to him from the office because he does good things for them. He stayed in the pandemic. He gave Uemura a place to live in America when he came over there. So he gets to be in the G1. If you think about it in any other sense, because he's somebody everybody complains about. Why is he in the G1? It's not because of his wrestling. It's because he's a soldier for the company, like an office favorite.
Yeah, and I get that.
Exactly. And for a lot of these guys, that's what this is. It's to build goodwill to say, remember when Carl Fredericks was in New Japan? How crazy he got when he wasn't in the G1. He was disgruntled and then he left. So they don't want that to happen again. So they're putting these guys in here to keep them happy and pacified.
I get that. And that's completely reasonable. But again, why can't you just tell a story before the tournament where it's explained how Alex Coughlin got into this tournament, for example, or how Chase Owens gets into this tournament? Why is the Great Okan in this tournament? He hasn't achieved anything in the last couple of months. Give a reasonable explanation why these 32 guys need to be in this tournament.
No, you're completely right. I wish that would happen. If it were up to me, that's exactly what would happen. You have enough room to do it. You've got a ton of Road 2 shows going in through May. You've got a Forbidden Door pay-per-view. You could easily have a match to get into the G1 on if you wanted to. You've got Strong you could do stuff with. You had 2 Strong shows in Japan this month. A couple of weeks ago you could have done something with. That's 3 or 4 spots right there you could have covered and given justification to at the end of the day. And I think it would help and benefit everybody. So you're completely right on that end. I don't think they even care that much ultimately. They care about the guys. The guys that we would want in the tournament are who they care about. Everyone else, it might as well just be, hey, we're filling out the tour. We need matches to do these shows. We have 19 shows to fill, and we want to keep our guys happy. So unfortunately, and you're completely right. You're not wrong at all. I just think that they don't even think about it that deep, which they should, and I think that's a big contributor for why things have gone down as time has gone along in terms of their attendances and popularity, because they don't put that much effort into things which they should, unfortunately. And I think they're trying to. I'm not a fan of it, but I somewhat defended the Three Musketeers thing as trying to get interest in these guys, even if it's artificial. I will at least give them credit for trying, even if I don't like it. And with some of these other guys, they don't even try. It's not even artificial. It's just non-existent.
Yeah, and these blocks with 8 wrestlers being in each block in the end, looking at the final block day for Block D, Toru Yano, Alex Coughlin, and Shane Haste at the final day will be wrestling for who's going to get place number 5 in Block D. And there is no consequence to it whatsoever. So why should we care? Or in Block C, Tomohiro Ishii versus Mikey Nichols, the last match for these two. You know that neither of these two is getting into the finals in the end, or into the quarterfinals. Taichi versus Great Okan in Block B, or what else do we have here? Shota Umino versus Hikuleo on the final day of Block A action. Yeah, and you know that that's not going to happen for these wrestlers. So going back, Dylan, to the N1 Victory 2021. That was the first time where they implemented this 4-block system. And in this tournament, they had 4 wrestlers in each block. A good part of the roster didn't even get to be in the tournament. They chose 16 wrestlers to be in the tournament, and it worked out really well. It worked out well to the point that one upset in the tournament could suddenly propel you to place number 1, to be in the semifinals in the end. So, of course, New Japan would want to have a bigger tournament than that, but 8 wrestlers in a block in this format, in my opinion, is really a tough call, because there's going to be a lot of matches that you just don't care about and that you can't care about. Something between like 5 or 6 in each block, in my opinion, would be the perfect amount of wrestlers.
Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, I really enjoyed that Noah tournament that you mentioned. I thought that was a great tournament, up and down. I remember reviewing it. Me and Rob did that. Rob McCauley on the Patreon had a lot of fun with that. And I really enjoyed that tournament up and down. There was a lot of great people that did big things in there. It was almost all hits outside of, like, literally there was, like, Muto and Saito, and then the other 14 were all great. And, I mean, that's what you expect from the tournament this year, even in the N1, with 16 guys, and there's 2 that maybe we don't like as much, and then 14 that are great. So it's probably going to be an awesome tournament. With this, there's so much filler that it makes the shows tougher and contributes to there being a lack of buzz. What do you think about, let's say they don't even change the amount of people. Like, they had the same amount of people here.
Yeah.
What if they did 8 blocks of 4?
Yeah, the World Cup system. That would
Exactly.
be much more intriguing because, much like I said, with one upset, you're suddenly at the top of the block. And
Right.
there would be much more of a chance for a guy like Alex Kovlin or Chase Owen suddenly to advance in the block than in comparison to this system.
Absolutely. I mean, look at that Mikey Nichols and Hinari match. Like, the most unexpected banger of all time pretty much happened. In that match, Nichols gets a huge win, and suddenly he has a chance to advance after that. If that were in the case of the World Cup system. So, yeah, I think that would be something that would be interesting if they did that. Even if they didn't. I mean, I'm kind of with you, though, just kind of cutting out some of the fat here. But I think the thing is, we're thinking in terms of making the tournament better quality-wise, where I think these decisions, like, we're thinking about 2 different things, us and the Japan.
Yes,
Right.
right.
So I think that's the thing. We're judging it 2 different ways, so they're not even thinking about that overall. Like I said, you're going to run into problems. Maybe your last cut in a 20-person tournament gets super pissed and things tank and there's bad morale and maybe you feel like you haven't been loyal enough to a guy because that is a big part of Japanese wrestling culture as well. So there's all of these internal politics that have come around.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like what you're saying, I completely agree with. Ultimately, like ideally you just trim the fat, or if they even want to have a bunch of guys in the tournament, I like the idea of the World Cup format actually helping out. Like you said, to where every match is very super meaningful now. Like a win could change everything for your whole career. I think that would be an interesting story if they got behind it.
Yeah. So that would be really cool to see. I think maybe in their thinking that's too many blocks for one tournament, and you really lose the grasp of what the tournament is supposed to be. So they go with the 4 blocks. Who knows what their thinking behind that is? But yeah, that's mainly my issue with the tournament right now. When you look at an undercard like the undercard on the 18th, Dylan, that's really tough. I mean, the Kaito Chase match was short, but nothing happened in that. Kenta versus Great Okan, really bad match. Gabe Kidd and Hikuleo we talked about. Taichi and Tangaloa. Tangaloa was a better match than he had with Kenta on the other day. But still, though, this match hardly did anything for me.
He's a guy, Loa. That's a guy that should have been in matches before the tournament.
Definitely.
You can't just bring a guy fresh a year away. I mean, we saw it last night on AEW. I mean, look at what Ibushi looked like in that match at the end of the day. You can't just bring a guy fresh and put him in these major situations and expect things to come in after a year away. That's not fair. And unfortunately, I mean, he's struggling right now. It's a struggle to even watch him. And like you said, this match with Taichi was better, but I put that as much on the people. He should have been in warm-up matches for the last month. Again, look at all of these shows you have that you could have easily put him in the pre-show matches.
To my point, why can't Tangaloa have a series of matches that really not only qualify him for the tournament, that prepare him for this tournament? Like a series of trial matches.
And you're right. Like the problem is that they don't care.
Yeah.
You're totally right. There's no argument against what you said that I can think of anyway. Logically, why they don't do it, I don't know. It's because they don't care. But Taichi, the good thing for him is he got back-to-back wins. Kaito starting off with back-to-back wins. Like you said, the Owens match was okay. Like, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't good. The rating's probably about right, 5.45. I'm looking at it right now. It gives some filler guys also. One good thing for those type of dudes is that they can also give easy wins to people, and maybe it'll inflate their points system as well. Because if you only... Maybe this is one of their thinkings why they don't do the World Cup format, is like, okay, you advance with 4 points. And in this block, you're going to need 10 points. And that sounds bigger overall. They want to give Kaito and the winners of the blocks 10, 12, 14 points to make it seem bigger than it really is, kind of.
Yeah.
That's speculation, but I do think that could be something they think about.
Mm-hmm. That could really be something, yes. I agree. Yes. So that is basically it for these 2 shows of the G1 Climax. The tournament continues on tomorrow on the 21st. Then we got the 23rd in Nagano, 25th and 26th in Korakuen Hall. It's going to be interesting how these shows will be from the atmosphere in the building. Yeah, and that's we need to see how that progresses then in the end.
And then Night 9 in Otis City.
Yes.
So that kind of brings to what I said at the start, that may be the turning point, because that's a bigger building that they're running usually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before we go, Dylan, we briefly touched last show on it that Dragon Gate has a tournament running themselves right now. They have the King of Gate going on, and we are down to the quarterfinals right now. It is on July 22nd. We have Shuji Kondo versus Madoka Kikuta. We got Big Boss Shimizu versus Suzumu Mochizuki. We got on the 23rd, Yuki Yoshioka versus Kota Minura. And on the 29th, it's Dragon Dia versus Hio. Hio upset KZ recently. What do you think about the tournament so far?
The tournament's okay. They had one big show at the start in Korakuen where the crowd was really, really hot. Otherwise, I mean, like Susumu, he's made it to this point, and he hasn't wrestled. There was an injury, and a guy went to Mexico before their match. So it's like he's in the quarterfinals and hasn't wrestled yet. I predicted early that it would be Dia and Diamante, but then Diamante dropped out, so I went with Shimizu. And I still think that'll probably be the final.
Exactly.
I think they want to heat up Dia to give him a big win over either Minoura or Yoshioka. The problem with Minoura winning is that you don't want to jump him out again in a major match, because they've done that multiple times. Because it feels like if he goes to the final, he should win, and he shouldn't win. So we don't want him to win. So I think either Yoshioka beat Minoura. That's what I think makes the most sense. It ends with Dia and Yoshioka. Dia gets a big win over his original partner and stablemate. Because Yoshioka and Kikuta have had their moments into Courage, and now Dia needs his moment, pretty much, to kind of build him up.
Yeah.
And you have the tease of him challenging Kikuta for a title. But I think Shimizu might also be the guy. They teased this in May, where he would get a title shot, but then they just dropped it because nothing happened in June.
And he was excluded from the Reiwa 6. So he went into this tournament with a lot of weight on his shoulders, actually, and he defeated Shun Skywalker in a really, really strong match in Korakuen Hall. You mentioned that show at the beginning of the tournament that also had the Madoka Kikuta versus Masaki Mochizuki match in an amazing main event between the two. Great stuff. Something about this tournament is that some of the matches happen in smaller buildings, and they only put it up on, you could say they put it up on their YouTube for free, actually. So you can see some of those matches, but in some of these situations, the matches that they have on YouTube, you can really see that these are the smaller shows where there is not that much effort put into the matches as in comparison to a bigger building like Korakuen Hall or like Kyoto KBS Hall, where they were on the 15th. That was day 5 of the tournament, one of the better days of this tournament, of this tour so far, not only with the Shimizu and Kanda match that was very short, but with the Yuki Yoshioka and Dragon Kid main event, it was very good. And once again, if you haven't seen that match, that's a non-tournament match, semi-final of that particular day. Hio and Shun Skywalker against Jackie Funky Kame and KZ in an amazing tag match. Jackie Funky Kame once again showing up, showing his great chemistry that he has with Shun Skywalker. That was a tag match I really loved.
Oh yeah, JFK rules. Like one of the best guys. I think he's like one of their best guys. Honestly, I think he's an overall total package. Yeah. Charisma, tag team, singles. I mean, he had a really good match with Yoshioka in the first round. You just have to hope they get behind him at some point because he's got everything it takes to be a star player overall. But the tournament's pretty much gone pretty chalk so far. Yep. I would say, like, I guess Hyo, like, you could say that was an upset, but it's KZ. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, really, you know, it just gives him a little bit of a run. I think they might do something with Hyo also leaving Z-Brats to side with Diamante.
Yes, that was brought up also on Open the Voice Gate because Hyo is very close with Diamante. What's his? Luis Mesa is his name, right? Luis Mesa.
Yeah.
He's very close with him in real life, so they may end up splitting up Z-Brats completely.
Yeah, that's fine if they want to do that. Shun's leaving in September, or anyway, he's going to be in the Junior Festival. They're doing, New Japan's doing the All-Star Junior Festival, which he was in the first one too. Now he's going to be the one in America, so he's going to be away for a little while. They could easily split that up if they want at this point. So they might do something with Hyo, but I think there's more upside with Daya than him. The other three, I think, are, you know, and like to me, the one match I would be questionable on is Minoura and Yoshioka because they may just want to give Minoura his moment here if they want, but I think that's going to be an interesting call, how they would weave around that with the title situation. I think Kondo's going to beat Kikuta, and that'll set up a title shot in the near future, which they kind of did last year with him and Kai, although that was like a 5-second match as well. I don't think this will be another 5-second match, but it'll be a match where Kondo wins, gets a title shot, a perfect filler opponent for Kikuta to face. And then it'll be Shimizu and Kondo, and Shimizu will win that and get to the final. I feel pretty confident about that side. The other side's a little bit more up in the air, but Yoshioka will not win because he's in the other one, and he just had a title shot. So it can't be him and it can't be Hyo. It has to be Minoura or Daya, and I think there's more upside at Daya from that side. So well, we'll see. Like I said, it's been a pretty good tournament overall, but nothing like you have to rush out to see or anything like that. It's been a fine tournament. You might want a little bit of a different taste. Like you said, a bunch of the matches are free on YouTube. No reason not to check it out. Give it a watch. There's some really talented guys. And I thought the big show at Kobe World was a really strong, you know, obviously the main event. I mean, it kind of sucks, though, because you had this amazing moment, and then everybody leaves afterwards. Like, you can't take advantage of that momentum at all. Pretty much. Like, Shun's out, he's going to America, Diamante went to Mexico. Like, what was the point of that, ultimately? like now you're just like, oh, they're gone now. You
can't really benefit from the fallout of that show right away, and that's not good, usually.
Strong Machine was out in the first round as well. I mean, like, everybody involved was out in the first round of this tournament. and one guy didn't even go into the tournament, like, because he left before the tournament started. So I think that's another flaw, I think, and I've said this many times. I'm not a fan of doing the King of Gate after Kobe World. Like, I think it should have been before. And especially now, like, with how things played out, I feel even more confident in that. We could have had a great tournament, and Yoshioka actually has build to his match, and maybe the match will be a lot better than it turned out to be if they had actually built to it some. But, you know, it is what it is. They're an okay product right now, but it's not something I would say, oh, this is lighting the world on fire, you know.
Yeah, what the tournament did so far definitely was to boost some of the houses that they have on the smaller tour stops. For example, like the third day of the tournament in Osaka did 711 fans, and then most recently they did 2 smaller tour stops in Kanazawa and in Kazukabe, where they sold out their tickets. And that has not happened for Dragon Gate in a long, long time on shows that are not Kobe World or Korakuen Hall.
And that's kind of a good thing too. I guess it's kind of like, when do you want it? Because I think that same thing would have happened if they had done it in June. Like, their houses would have gone up with the tournament.
Right.
It's just, do you want it then or do you want it after? And I guess that they chose after. And, I mean, we'll see how it worked out overall. Like I said, it depends on how the final goes. If Minoura wins, I think that's going to be a lot more, my opinion will be negative than if it's Daya or Shimizu.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. The tournament ends on August 3rd. Then we got the Gate of Adventure tour, and in between that, I think the winner of the King of Gate is challenging Madoka Kikuta at Dangerous Gate from Outer City on the 20th of August. That's their schedule. And one more point, Dylan, before we go. I said that you should really do something before the tournament starts, like to heat up some guys, to raise the stakes for some guys. And very interestingly, Noah announced that they will hold one more show before the N1 Victory actually starts. That show will be from the Hotel Metropolitan Edmond in Tokyo. And they are doing an N1 Rumble with all the participants of the N1 Victory in a one Battle Royal. That's a cool idea, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, actually. I would love to, I hope that airs and we can see it. Because doing a special match like this really sets the tournament off on the right foot. You get a special match, you can heat up somebody who maybe, is an underdog type of player. I think the best idea would be to do something like that. Somebody who maybe you don't see, maybe have a big run plan for. I mean, I don't know who that would be. Maybe Jack Morris would be a good winner for that. Sure. Give him a little bit of rub. He's been on the back burner for a little while. Give Jack a little win there. You could put some people in there. Yoshioka, I think, would be a great winner.
Yoshioka would be great. Lance Anoa'i could use a victory in this tournament too to heat him up even more.
Yeah, him, Brooks as well. Like you get two different guys there, Adam Brooks, coming in there. So you got some foreign talent coming in. You might want to give that win too. I think those guys are all good picks as well. So yeah, I think it's a cool idea. Like you said, gives a story to some people. Maybe somebody that you do something where a double elimination happens and they brawl and that sets up a big.
Sure, that would surely happen with one or two matches of the first day. Another question is, of course, who eliminates the big guys in the tournament, the main players, who eliminates the champion, Jake Lee, who throws Keno out, stuff like that. That's just a cool little thing to heat up the tournament.
That's a great point. Like, let's say Inamura eliminates Jake in the Battle Royal. That immediately gives him something to hang his hat on, even if he's not going to be a threat in the tournament per se.
Exactly. It's
something you could easily... This is a great idea. Good props to Noah for this. I really like this N1 Rumble they've set up.
Yes. So, a company cares about the tournament. That's good in the end. Let's hope that we were a bit too negative on New Japan, Dylan, that in the end we will see that they do care about their G1 Climax.
By the end, they will. Like once we get through all these lame guys, like they focus on the 8, like that's when they're going to care about it. I think most. But yeah, N1's doing great going into it. I'm pretty hyped for it. I love the field. I did the preview. I recorded it. That'll be out next week for it. That's going to be on the free feed for everybody. Me, Dean, and Dr. Jonathan. Ton of fun talking about the tournament there. We predicted all kinds of stuff, so some good stuff there. Me and Sandre did a thing on Patreon about the 5-star Grand Prix for Stardom. Picked every match, and I mean, it was a crazy show. Like by the end, trying to figure that out. If you want to, it made me wonder because it made me think about if the actual bookers of these tournaments go through similar things where maybe a guy has extra points that they don't want by the end, and they have to change the whole tournament around to acquiesce that. But you see that on there. Two other things real quick before we get out of here. We don't have to go match by match or anything, but I wanted to ask you about something. It would have been a stunner years ago for this to be how it turned out to be, but I don't think we're wrong at all for not giving it more attention. But Peter Pan is coming up in a couple of days. In Sumo Hall. We have a Sumo Hall show, like right now, in a couple of days, with very little buzz surrounding it, to say the least. But do you have any thoughts on that show?
Yeah, my general thought on that show is that I'm really looking forward to the main event because I expect Chris Brooks to win the KOD Openweight title.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm mainly looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Yuki Naya's return match. He will be in a tag match with Harashima against Jun Akiyama and Shigeru Irie. That could be a show stealer, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the card's pretty interesting, actually. The last half.
The last half probably starts with this match, with the 6th match on the card. Then we have a special singles match between Taka Michinoku and Mao. Taka recently came in because Cannon had his anniversary, and he was teaming with him. Then we have a special singles match between Konosuke Takeshita and Yuki Ueno. KOD 6-man tag titles, Katsu Sadaiguchi, Ryota Nakatsu, and Yuki Ishida, they clash with Higuchi's former stable with Yukio Sakaguchi, Saki Akai, and Hideki Okatani. That's a really interesting stuff right there. And then we have guys.
Retirement road as well.
Exactly, yes, she's retiring. And then we got the Mexico Kanko presents dramatic dream match: Daisuke Sasaki versus El Fantasmo.
El Desperado.
Desperado, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for Desperado that he gets to work anywhere he wants to right now. This match, well, it's Daisuke Sasaki.
This is the match he wanted.
Yeah. And for the Universal title, Tetsuya Endo defends against Matt Cardona. Who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Cardona, he is a wrestler from America. He's been in WWE before. Look at that hair he's got. I mean, what a great haircut.
I mean, he is a great draw. You can't disregard that. But that's, of course, in America.
On the Indies.
On the Indies. I don't know how much of a draw he is actually in Japan.
Yeah, like on the Indies, he could be considered a draw. And a great promotional guy.
Yeah.
Like definitely true of that. But we'll see how he does in there. I mean, my match will be Cheeton and Poketon versus Andre the Giant Panda and Sasatag Machine in an attack match. But the first half of the show is basically not that important. But the matches you said were all good. Takeshita, will he walk out on the match here like he did in his last major match? At the end of the day, we'll have to see what happens there. We'll get heel Takeshita here, which
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it gives a nice. I like it though because it gives a spin instead of them having like an exhibition match because they've done that like 2 or 3 times this year already. Like whenever Takeshita comes in, put him against Ueno, they'll have a good match. And now we actually have a little bit more of an edge to it. And like you said, ultimately the big thing on this show is the main event. I mean, Brooks winning the tournament was one of the best moments of the year to me. Like that was it in one of my honorable mentions. And I thought the match was awesome too. Him versus Iguchi was a fantastic match.
Fantastic, yes.
Yeah. Hino's run hasn't exactly been the greatest, but I think here it's going to pay off in a huge win. It's setting up the kind of like long-term foreign guy like to win the title, get his big win, and it should be a lot of fun. Sumo Hall, I wanted to mention that there before we get out of here, and I will say, yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say one more thing, too, I wanted to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any more points on this, go ahead.
Yeah, before we go to anything else, I just want to throw out the recommendation that I've also thrown out on Twitter for the match between Hub and Yuki Ueno on
that was great.
the 2nd of July. I've said it on Twitter. Every time I get to see Hub, I really clamor anything that I see from him because he rarely makes tape, and the guy is just one of the most underrated guys that there has been. And of course, former Osaka Pro champion, 44 years old already, but still going very strong. The match with Yuki Ueno had a lot of cool looking spots. Really hard match too. 2 guys going all out for almost 30 minutes. I just loved the match.
Oh yeah, that was a ton of fun. So cool that they got to do that match. As well in the first time. Hard to believe that he's only 44. I mean, he's been around for so many years.
24 years. He debuted in 1999, actually.
How about that? It's still doing great things, and you see that talent level that he has there. DDT brought in Gaina for some shows, and then they gave Hub a big singles match against Ueno, and it was a great match. I mean, then it was like a full match, too. I mean, this was like a long match. They did some great work in between them. I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
One more thing I wanted to ask you about was another Sumo Hall show that I think we should talk about. GLEAT coming in here. Ibushi getting his old buddies a payoff is what
That's so great. I was so happy that particularly we got Hagane Shino and Yumehito Imanari on a Sumo Hall show because Kota Ibushi, he wants his buddies around. So I don't know if that's the main event of that show. Probably not. Probably T-Hawk versus Hayato Tamura. But they have a elimination 5-on-5 match with Takanori Ito, Soma Watanabe, El Lindemann, Check Chimatani, and Kaito Ishida. What a team! Like, going through all stables that GLEAT has. Even some rivalries heating up there with Kaito Ishida and El Lindemann. Also, Lindemann and Shimatani are kind of in a rivalry. And they face Kota Ibushi, Shuji Ishikawa, Daisuke Sekimoto, Hagane Shino, and Yumehito Imanari.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be the main event. Actually, if it's either going to be that or the MMA match they have, I don't think Teok. Historically, I mean, look at the last show, Teok and Soma, which was a great match.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've done it since Lindemann, and they're repeating their mistakes once again with Teok, pretty much. And now, I think Ibushi's match will be the main event, but I can also see the MMA match. Cause
they've usually done that they put the MMA stuff at the end of their show. Like they have this kickboxing match, then they have Tetsuya Itsuhi against Akihiro Gono in an MMA rules match, and the little UWF rules tag match, Fujita Hayate Juna and Yu Iizuka against Minoru Suzuki and Shinya Aoki. That could also go on last.
I think that, man, Izuchi's going to get destroyed in this fight, though.
Yeah.
Fukuda's in another MMA match. She's going to get just dismantled in her match as well.
Oh, that's a kickboxing match, though.
And she's still going to get the hell beat out of her. I watched. Her technique is very poor. Actually, I looked at her and Azusa Inaba, a 16-year-old, was schooling her kind of.
She was great. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and but she is great. But still, this is a 16-year-old, not an MMA fighter, not even a trained MMA fighter, like a wrestler, who has much better technique than you. Fukuda is going to get the hell beat out of her in that match, and Izuchi is going to get schooled. It's going to be embarrassing for the promotion. So you've got that. You have this complete disgraceful 5-on-5 match that they put together, total circle jerk match, no reason or logic. You have Ibushi in there. You'd think you'd want to have him in a major match. Yeah. But then you do this. So, the title match is going to be great. Teok has done a great job. His match with Soma was a fantastic match. And the match with Tamura, I could easily see Tamura getting the win, to be honest, and winning the title.
Yeah, me too.
And I think he deserves it. I think Teok's a great champion.
I think that Kawakami and Galeno Domal will end up winning the G Infinity title from the Saito brothers.
Oh, that'll be an atrocious match. But I do agree that they could easily win the title. That may be. I don't know what they're going to do on the show, but the point is the show.
It's a wild card.
It may be successful, even with all that they've done, with the MMA and all of that stuff.
I think Kota Ibushi was a big boost for tickets.
Oh, absolutely. And that's true, even though I don't agree with this matchmaking, but the fact is he's on the show.
Yeah.
And maybe it's for the best. I saw him, he looked just awful, last night in AEW, and he got injured in 3 minutes in March. His match performance is not going to be good. So it may be better to surround him with other guys, to do the heavy lifting, but I just think from a promotional aspect, I fear for them. Because, if this show is successful, will that convince them that they're not making any mistakes? I could easily see this being a successful big show, and then things fall off a cliff, quickly afterwards.
We've said it on the half-year show. Things have really fallen off a cliff in the recent months when you look at how they handled their shows, and the quality of their shows was... it used to be better. There's still some great matches on these cards, for example, the Fujita Juna Hayato versus Takanori Ito match was a match of the year level candidate.
Oh, I thought that match sucked.
Wow.
Yeah, Ito was terrible in that match.
Ooh, I really liked that match.
His transitions and armbars were so phony. He was so sloppy trying to do... Why did they put him in UWF-style matches? He doesn't belong there. He is a pro wrestler, not a UWF-style wrestler. I'm convinced of that. I thought that was Fujita's worst match he's had.
Wow.
Maybe I've ever seen. I thought it was
I saw a lot of praise for that, actually, on Twitter, and I agree with most of that.
It wasn't a terrible match, but for a shoot-style match, I thought, man, Ito is so out of his element here. And I always feel that way.
The title of him quickly.
Yeah, that's another... well, what else is new? Look at what they did with the tag title. At the end of the day. But yeah, I think Fujita's a much better choice as champion. Why couldn't he have been in the tournament and win it in the first place? What do I know? GLEAT's booking, and I just think about that, because then you had the semi-main event tag. Imagine if they had put Yoshida, took him out, and put Fujita in that tag. That would have been an epic match. Mm-hmm. And then, instead, you get these kind of matches that aren't what they could have been, because you've got a guy out of position, with Ito. Because Ito's a good wrestler, just a bad shoot stylist at the end of the day. Look at his transition to the armbar, even if you like that match.
I know, yes. He didn't look good in that situation, yeah.
And why do they do that? Why does GLEAT do anything? I think is my main point right now with them. Why do they do what they do?
The thing is pretty clear. Like, they have this title. Shima is not a fan of the title, but he has this title around now. Shima has most of the control on the roster, in the promotion. Then there is the owner who has a lot of money, and he probably does what Shima wants, and that's what we have right here with this promotion. You can see, like, there's just lots of guys on this card that don't have anything going for them, pretty much.
They don't like the title so much. It's the main event title all the time over their wrestling title. I guess
that's due to the format of the shows that they do. They always do the UWF style matches last.
But it's not just that title though; it's the whole company. Like up and down. Like look at what they're doing with the women. Look what they're bringing these random luchadors for no reason. Some of them are good. Like their wrestling is almost always good on there. Even though I wasn't a fan of that on a shoot style sense. But a lot of people probably never watch Rings or UWFI or care about or trained martial artists. Like they don't care about technique or anything like that. They just want to see Fujita and he be awesome, and he was. So I can understand that. But also, you look at the whole show up and down. It's all random stuff. There's no sense to anything they do, even on their own Sumo Hall show. It's just a company that baffles me. When I look at them, I'm so confused at everything they do. Again, not just the title. I actually think, overall, even though I'm not a fan of Ito, I think that they've done a pretty good job of establishing the UWF title. That's one of the things they've actually done right recently with the tournament and then this big main event match with Fujita. I just think that the whole show is so out of whack that it just turns me off of everything they do. Even though, like I said, there's going to be some good matches on that show. Sure. I don't know. I just wanted to take a second to see what you thought about the GLEAT show.
It's a wild card. It's definitely much, much more than Noah. They just have stuff that they throw against the wall, and they not only do the things that stick, but they do all the things that they throw against the wall all over again, basically.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a wild card to say the least. I hope for the best. Because, like I said, they have a lot of guys that I really like. I think T-Hawk's had an excellent run this year as champion and all over the place in All Japan as well. Lindemann now a champion in All Japan, even though his match really sucked against Aoyagi, unfortunately. Yeah, he struggled lately. I think Lindemann is so unmotivated at this point. I said, him and Imanari on the Ganbare Pro show too wasn't that great shakes. So I think that's a guy. Hopefully, putting him in All Japan will give him a spark back that he can do some good things with. And they've got good wrestlers around him, so we'll see. But they're doing stuff at least. And
they're doing stuff. But I've been much higher on GLEAT in the last couple of years than I'm right now.
Oh, yeah. Right now it's just a weird... What you said is so true. They just throw stuff against the wall, and I'm really worried about those MMA matches and the kickboxing match on that show. I'm really, really worried about those two.
Doesn't even make sense, but what do we know?
It's a draw.
Yeah, sure. I know.
Magic Man, go no.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all we've got to say about it.
That's all we got. Yes, so that has been it for today's show. You can expect us back probably early next week, because on Monday there is once again a G1 free day. So we're going to talk about the happenings on the weekend. And that's it so far. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Sayonara.
This is the MLW Radio Network.